Yeah, that's what I feel like we need something like that. I mean, both teams. If you look at both teams, they got a guy on each side of the ball that kind of knows what they're doing from like a coordination standpoint, a play calling standpoint. Eagles go out of their way, bring in Kellen Moore after they had that disaster of a year without Steichen, where we saw they finished last season. I think Sirianni took over. It was just weird. So they go out of their way, get in Kellen Moore, proven guy. He's running the offense. They got Vic Fangio running the defense. Chiefs, obviously Andy Reid running the offense. He knows what he's doing. And Spagnuolo. That's what I'm looking for. That's the type of setup I'm looking for. And I don't think Teryl Austin fits the bill for that right now.
So, honestly, our
Arthur Smith
closer.
I have questions about,
well,
but
no.
it's like, let's give him another year.
But check it out. But what I was going to say is this, man, technically, like, our approach with both of those coordinators is more in line with that than what I was going to bring up was Buffalo, where theirs is more, we're going to promote dudes that aren't necessarily known all the way, but through the opportunities, that's how they are going to get up there. Ken Dorsey was the prime example. Obviously, they ended up moving on from him, but that's how he ended up being in Cleveland this year, with that. And now with Joe Brady, he took over for Dorsey, and that's when he was getting an opportunity with the Saints in terms of the interviews and stuff like that. But in terms of the defense, Bobby Babbage, before then it was Leslie Frazier. Leslie had did the retirement, kind of step away from the game, and then McDermott took over the play calling for like that in between season. But these aren't like big names.
No,
either,
I get that, but they're living up to the bill. Brady was a name though, coming out of LSU,
and but it was still collegiate, no different than our collegiate swing wasn't as notable, but he was still college. I tried to be nice,
a little bit more levels.
They both did some LSU. They both had some success, but it's levels
between Canada and Joe Brady.
Yes, man.
A little bit of a difference there.
But in terms of Arthur Smith and Teryl Austin, lead guys. So it's like we could point to the Detroit Lions tenure with Teryl Austin and say, yo, we've seen you have success at this level. We could point to Arthur Smith in Tennessee and say, we've seen you have success at this level. So I feel like we were still trying to get that approach. It just, as a whole, man, we got more to be desired. And that's just where we are as an organization right now, players and coaches wise. And I think what Mr. Rooney is doing and what Coach T is doing in terms of setting the tempo for what the offseason needs to be, that's what these two press conferences have been essentially. We're not satisfied. It hasn't been good enough. These are the things that we're identifying right now as we got to get better at, but we're not satisfied with this. But they also feel like they're closer to getting to where they want to be than they are further from where they want to be. And we obviously know that that's just depending on who you ask at that time and how they feeling on that day. But for the team, they view themselves as we are very close to what we want to accomplish. Is it Justin Fields developing and now we got the complete answer? Is it Russell Wilson looking more like what he did at the beginning of his time starting versus what it looked like at the end? Is it somebody outside of the organization? But I think for them, they just view it as they are a lot closer and they don't want to prematurely move off of that. If that could be, hey, man, within the next year to two, it's like, yo, what if you can get into that thing? And if they feel like they can, then it makes sense for them to kind of take the approach they're taking right now.
Yeah, I think there's just a little bit of a difference between like the benefit of the doubt or like the levels of benefit of the doubt or passes that like a Teryl Austin should get compared to, like, if we're talking about Eberflus coming in here or a Saul. You've seen like a Vic Fangio getting hired with the, you know what I mean?
I'm not against that. Those guys got more cash.
We had a Brian Flores in house and let him go out the door.
I would also say that the guys that you're bringing up have also been former head coaches.
That's what I mean. Teryl Austin has never gotten to that point. So like I don't know why we're like hanging on necessarily where he hasn't really put out good defenses here to that degree.
But think about it like this: to the Steelers, they feel like numeric or from a statistical value, they have had good defenses under Teryl Austin. They feel like the variables and the context has a little bit more been at play. But in terms of the dudes that we would want at the times, those dudes have been employed. They have been head coaches. Robert Saleh, he wasn't available until most recently.
That's what I mean. I'm just saying these guys are out there.
But I'm with you. But this is new information. We're acting as if these guys are just sitting there on the scrap heap and we just passed up on them multiple times. We haven't.
I just think now's the time then.
And that's because
these guys are available. We've got a few years of Teryl Austin.
I think that's fair. But it's like you're almost ready. Like it's almost like you're holding it against them for not doing something that wasn't even available to them. They've had a Brian
I'm
Flores
saying now's
here
the
before.
time. No, I'm saying now's the time because I'm with you. I don't think Teryl Austin has been like that bad.
Right.
But again, we're talking about trying to get over the hump, get back to being great, and it's just not there with Teryl Austin in terms of defense.
When we're talking about the greatness part, that's all right, we've done 80% of what we were supposed to do. How do we get the final 20? If that is the switch, that's what they have to decide on, man. Because
they're not. But
once again, you think about their like in terms of what they see and how they view what is deemed as good versus not good. That threshold is way different than what me or even you are going to deem good or not good. So that's why they make the decisions that they make. But the track record has proven it. It can't be god awful when, like you said, the proof is you had 10 wins. It wasn't like the defense was terrible in these 10 wins, and it wasn't like they were terrible in the 7 losses. Did they have some bad parts? Heck yeah, they did. But we can say that about all of them. And I think that's why the team isn't as like just gung-ho about making these moves, even though we would all agree that there are multiple areas where, yes, they can and they need to improve it. We hoping that they make them improvements. But it's just like we just focus a lot more on the bad part of it, whereas I think for the team, when they're going through that process, they're focusing on both parts of it.
I get it, but we can't be surprised though going forward because we keep on talking about like trying to replicate what these contending teams are doing. Mm-hmm. If you look at all these contending teams, they got guys on either the offensive side of the ball or defensive side of the ball that that are coordinators and have been successful to the degree where they've gotten head coaching jobs or they're really on the come up. Like we can't be surprised then. Yeah, like if it's not good enough going forward.
True, but we are doing that. We brought in Arthur Smith. We've had a Brian Flores in here.
But again, Teryl Austin isn't to the level of a bunch of these guys that I'm naming.
You know, I get it. You caught up on Teryl Austin. I'm with you on that. I'm with you. We'll see how the offseason goes.
What has he done as a coordinator in the past before coming here?
He had top 10 defense in Detroit. That's what he did.
It was one season.
You said, what has he done?
But then he had the worst defense in the league with the Bengals and got fired in the middle of the season. Whereas all these other guys became head coaches because they were defensive coordinators.
Fine, but you said they became head coaches. So they were head coaches.
And there were guys available this offseason. That's all I'm saying.
And that's fair.
If we want to get over the hump, then this is something that all these other teams they got a Spagnuolo.
So if they have a Spagnuolo, how can we have Spagnuolo then? You catch what I'm saying? You going to say Saleh. Saleh was a head coach. He's been a head coach in New York for how many years right now? He was
available this offseason.
Saleh was not available this offseason.
Yes, he is.
Right now he is. As in right now. He wasn't available last offseason.
That's why I'm talking about making the pivot right now. So we can't be surprised. Like, to me, we can't be surprised going forward if our defense isn't as good as all these other contenders. If this isn't something where we've addressed, like we haven't done it.
And we'll be the same ones beating our chest when they are just as good or not better. We would still have that same price.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope I'm wrong.
Like, we're going to still like them either way. Yeah.
But this is this is something I think it's very much fair to bring up and address here.
Oh, 1,000% it is.
And talk about pivoting because, again, you look at all these other defenses out there, these other teams that are in contention. They got some like really high quality guys that
I'm with you, bro.
They worked up the ranks as defensive coordinators, became head coaches.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, maybe it didn't work out as a head coach, but obviously they know what they're doing on that side of the ball, like really well to a very high level.
Hey, that's why I said, are you extending any of our coordinators right now?
All right. As I said,
we know the Steelers don't do the whole we're going to fire you, but
I'd be moving off of Teryl Austin. Yeah. That's what I would be doing, not extending. Yeah. Who else? Mike Pettin, I think, was out there. Okay. Another name that I brought up.
Yeah. I like Patton Bryant. Where's Patton? Because I know he was in Green Bay for a little bit. I don't know where he's at right now.
The Vikings.
Okay.
Coach. So,
shout out.
That would actually be a realistic option, I feel like.
I ain't against that. I have one of my best seasons under Mike Patton, man. So,
but, hey, I mean, again, Teryl Austin will be back. I hope it works out, but I think that's approach in terms of changes, in terms of trying to do something different.
I think that's legitimate, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, what are these teams doing that are winning Super Bowls that are different from us? Now we're trying it with Arthur Smith on offense.
Now, you said winning Super Bowls. Of all the dudes you named now, how many of them actually won?
Oh, it's just Super Bowls, being in contention, whatever you want to call it.
I just think that that's a real loose term when you throw it out there like that, because we said that our standard is actually winning the Super Bowl, not did you win 10 games, did you get to the postseason, are you cool, are you kind of good. It's like we're saying that this isn't okay, we want to go here. So when we bring up them dudes and you say that, yeah, they've won Super Bowls and this is like outside of Spagnolia, which of them dudes are you references like to that extent?
You got
That's
Raheem Morris with the Rams.
employed head coach, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But he was at that time he wasn't a head coach, and McVay brought in a dude of that caliber to run the defense,
but he left there to be a head coach.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think even before that, I think McVay had a Wade Phillips in there too.
Yeah, Wade is former head coach, Dallas Cowboys. Wade
stands. No, I'm winning Super Bowls, being in Super Bowl contention.
I'm just like, man, we threw that out. I'm like, who? Because Salah, are we throwing Salah out there like that?
Well, they made it to a Super Bowl with him, being with the 49ers. And obviously, D'Amico Ryans became.
D'Amico was one of them dudes, facts.
Yeah, he became one of those dudes. He becomes a head coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, I think that is a stone that we can unturn here for sure.
I like it, baby. I'm with it.
And there have been guys like I don't want to hear there haven't been guys available this offseason. There were guys available. Now, if you didn't like those guys, whatever. But
that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, that's something I think we're missing out on.
Yeah, I felt like when you first started off, it was like blurring between the retroactive of who we've passed on versus the current what's happening now. Yeah.
Well, we have. I mean, it is a little hindsight 2020, but we literally did have Brian Flores in house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a decision you can make there too. Of just like, hey, you know what? I trust this guy better than you going forward, and let's go with Flores. I don't think that's how Tomlin operates. I don't think that's how this organization operates. That's a little cutthroat, I will admit, but.
Because I was about to say, you sound like players would not want to be a part of your organization, and coaches wouldn't want to work for your organization because you seem like you have zero loyalty in the sense of like allowing dudes to work through the adversity. It's like, yo, they cut bait, so I'm gonna cut bait. They quit, I'm ready to move. Like, no, it ain't bad, but I'm just like,
at the time,
you just see real like
we can stick with Austin because he's good enough. But either way, like we had him here, he could have been an option. There's been options over the years, but now I've never said get rid of Austin up to this point. You could look back on the tape. I've said, you know what, this defense is good. Maybe it's not all in the defense. Like we're still trying to work things out on offense. Now I'm at the point. Yes, the defense. It's clearly been an issue. Like no matter how we want to slice it, clearly an issue. Because even if we get this offense right, this defense
it's got to be better.
Terrible down the stretch. Defense hasn't been good in these playoff games.
Defense will look better, as we've highlighted, if offense plays better as well. But we know offense plays better if they could get a little bit more help. And right now, a lot of that help is tied up in contracts on the defense side of the ball. And that's the reason why the messaging is what it is this offseason. It's like, you got to figure out a way to get better on that other side. Because clearly, y'all aren't good enough to hold it for us this whole time. Y'all have moments throughout the season. Y'all have moments even throughout the games where y'all look flat out elite, historically great. But the proof has been proven now multiple years where, y'all can't sustain the elite play for 17-plus postseason. Like when them injuries start to happen, when y'all start going into the depths, it's like, we need more on the other side of the ball. So until we get that, we're going to keep coming up short. We're going to keep having these convos about who, what, and why is it not being what it in terms of what we want the desired result to be.